Hello, welcome. We have a special guest here today who will introduce herself. She is at our office and we're so excited to have her.
I'm excited to be here. I'm Kat. I work with these two lovely women here. I'm honored to be the guest on today's show. I wore pink because I recall it being Sarah's signature color.
It is, and the fact that I'm not wearing pink today is fine because you can have the pink moment. I did wear something more vibrant though, because like usually you're very vibrant, so I gotta have something.
I'm a little thrown off that she's so dark right now.
I went dark because of the topic.
I get it.
I can't believe you guys didn't go darker. I thought we were going to go all black, goth mode. Because...
You know what? I did miss the opportunity, but I regret nothing.
But I think
the pink is very, very
good. This is good.
The pink is very good.
It evens us out.
I have a fun fact to tell you that it's a two-person job to get into this dress.
Ooh, fun.
It doesn't look like it, but it is like low-key. Stealth mode is needed to get into this dress.
Who was the helper today?
I had an adult woman who had the right touch get me in. You need 3 hands, really, just back there. You just need that. So
amazing. For the people listening, she's wearing a fabulous pink dress
and a white cape.
This
is called a cape blazer. It is one of the top 3 favorite things in my wardrobe, and I thought, what better occasion to wear it to than to your fabulous recording for our podcast today.
Thank God.
I love it.
So I brought my A game.
Yeah.
I'm here. I thought the topic was perfect for what we do and where we work. It just seemed like too good of an opportunity for us to not bring it up.
Yep.
Right? Not have a conversation about it and share with the masses all the things to know about.
And today's episode is all about Seattle's dark side. We are going to be covering some serial killers in Seattle, which we're big docu-series girls.
Oh yeah, any kind of like true crime I'm watching. So just like forewarn for anyone listening, like if this isn't your jam, like this whole episode's kind of going to be around some very, very famous,
violent
killers
Yes.
in the Seattle area.
The biggies for sure. Yeah,
there's some
guys. We're bringing big hitters. Like if you look at the lineup of like serial killers, Washington brings it with some big. It's big headliners.
The rain, it's the forest, it's the dark.
I was reading that. Yeah, I think that because we are so covered by rain all the time, it makes people go a little bit crazy. But I also thought the same thing was true in Colorado with all the sunshine, like the opposite effect. Too much vitamin D is creating serial killers too.
I could see. I'm open to the idea. I'm a California native. I moved to Washington in 2007, and so immediately experienced that Seattle freeze. Like that's a real thing.
It is real.
And I'm like, oh, so this is why. This is why people do what they do in Washington, because
the big dark.
The darkness.
Yeah.
It is dark here. We are negligent.
Very dark.
That vitamin D is like, we're neglected of it. So we need it. We're thirsty. We're like ready for the sun. And when we don't get it, we do crazy things.
But our skin looks great.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the moisture.
Still bring an SPF though. Yeah. You still need it.
Yeah.
So Kat had this idea that we would cover some of the major serial killers because she had a pretty crazy incident while touring a property, right? Will you run us through that?
I will. So I was covering a open house for a new construction development. It was a luxury listing. So they had like torn down, we'll say a nice big hunky lot and built like 3 beautiful luxurious homes, $1 million homes in its place. So we're in Mukilteo, which is gorgeous, right? Mukilteo real estate, you're looking good if you own anything in there, strong school district, Boeing, whatever, the works. So I thought, no big deal, this will be solid.
And you never know, honestly. You don't know what you're walking into.
No, you really don't. So I'm in this neighborhood, and sometimes for a new construction listing, you'll take it 3 days open, like all weekend. So Friday evening, I'm closing up. I'm wearing this adorable like little skirt, blouse top outfit. So I look very dressed for the occasion. And I'm like doing the walk of shame you do at the end of your opens where you go get your signs, like, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
And look at me.
And as I'm I'm like shamefully grabbing my sign, like really trying to avoid eye contact with anybody. I look over to my left and I see this man, maybe mid-30s, and he is like scooching in this large, we'll say like a 55 gallon drum into his front door. Okay. So being
Like an oil drum?
oh yes, ma'am, like a proper like Dahmer style drum.
Like a burn barrel.
This is
type.
the correct
Okay.
reaction.
Yeah.
That kind of drum. So I see him scooching that in, and I immediately think two things. One, the Dahmer series had just came out on Netflix, which was great. If you didn't watch it,
I
please
couldn't
go
get
do that.
through it. It was just like I
pretty
love
gruesome.
a true crime, but like for some reason I couldn't
do it?
I could not get through
Hey,
it.
I like the idea of eating other people. The
I don't-
bodies. Was that it? Was it the
I don't know.
You don't have an appetite for it?
It was just done so well that I was like,
Okay, that's why. That's
yeah,
why.
it was yeah.
There we go, bingo. It was done so well that by the end of that series, you're like, I'd be friends with that guy.
Yeah.
That's how
Just, like,
that's how I
two-
felt.
Yeah.
So one, I'm like, Dahmer was on my mind because of that. And two, I thought, man, I would fit very nicely in that drum. So, note to self, don't go there.
Yeah.
So then Saturday promptly rolls around and I'm at my open house. I've been there for about 45 minutes.
And you already know he's there.
He lives
He's
on the
next
corner,
door.
guys. We're
Yeah,
basically in a
exactly,
cul-de-sac, okay? So the
exactly.
last house in this cul-de-sac would have been sold off to this development, and that's where they put these 3 houses. And he's like here, okay? And so I'm like walking around this big, 3,000 square foot house. It's empty besides me. And then all of a sudden in the doorway is like this mass of a person. And he's in the house, you guys. He's in the house and he is like super friendly, cordial. And I'm like, the tingling things are happening, right? And I'll just cut to the chase. And long short, nothing happens. But he's like, hey, I'm hoping you could come to my house and give me a price opinion. We're thinking about selling it. It's not my house. It's my mom's house. She's in Florida, by the way, so she won't be home.
She's
But
in Florida or she's in the drum.
I'm thinking,
Too many red flags.
guys, I have so many questions. I have so many questions and I have all the feelings. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Go ahead and scan my QR code so I can get your first name, last name, like phone number, address, all the things. And then
get out.
I'll get in touch with you. How about that? And I will say, like, the good thing about these new construction builds is they have this massive oversized island, right? So I was always like strategically on the other side of the island from the dude, and my only like weapon of opportunity was like a good like hearty water bottle that I'm like, I'm gonna whack this dude.
Yeah.
He promptly left after I was like, okay, don't call me, I'll call you kind of thing. And I called one of my mentors and was like, I don't have to go to that house, right? And she was like, do not go to that house.
You get the spidey feeling.
You get the heck out of there, right? But it definitely, being a female, being in this work, did not, like, it wasn't something I was just going to brush off as not a big deal. And I thought, what great way to bring it up and talk about it in a twofer. You get like a fun story about, something that's safe because you didn't have to deal with it, and I did. But it also kind of goes along nicely with like what real estate looks like in our state, like what we do and what we're exposed to in it, and just kind of the history of like what happens here. So yeah, that's where this idea for this show came from, for like that first-hand experience.
I make my husband come with me when it's like far away in the woods, kind of a home, like one that's like on big property. I make my husband come and just sit in the house with me.
Okay,
If
so
you
first,
didn't do that in Woodinville, though, when you came out
But that
there.
one wasn't scary to me. I had
Okay.
one that was on like 15 acres. It was like truly down at like a dead end. Like
yeah.
there is no way out alone.
Yeah.
So I made my husband just like sit in the living room, which is why sometimes they say, like bring a buddy to an open house,
Yeah.
which is like easier said than done because real estate agents are like trying to get their own, open houses a lot. So it's hard to like tag team unless you're actually like, working together.
I really do, and when I can, I'll bring a lender. Sometimes another agent's going to come and just like, I'll shoot content while I'm there. Like my mom, I did an open house yesterday. My mom literally stopped by.
Love that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was great. I'm like, thanks, mom. Help a girl out,
Yeah,
Like,
I've
she
had my
came-
parents stop at open houses before.
When your mom comes through, does she just be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the price,
No.
it is fantastic.
This is a steal.
Bring her in as a
This is
ringer.
a steal.
I'm going to call my agent to write an offer today.
No, she is the exact opposite of my husband, who stopped by my prior open house, like literally the one I had just done before, and he was like, he was just kind of like, I don't think I'm buying this house. Like, for this amount, nah, I'm not buying it. My mom was like, wow, everything. Did you see those pillows? Oh my God, the windows, wow. Like, she was so good about it. And there were like potential shoppers in there, so that really helped. Like, thanks, Mom, you're the best. Like,
good.
Can't discount that, Mom. She's,
I love that.
yeah, one of a kind. So yeah. That was our Muckle Tio story. There's
Nice.
definitely, I think every real estate agent has to have like a couple of those, right?
For
like
sure.
a couple of those like awkward, like creepy, eerie, like I learned a lesson from that kind of experiences.
Especially when you're like answering the phone call from like someone you've never met before, and then you have to go meet them at a house. You know, like on Zillow calls and stuff like that. Like you have to keep, you know, your eyes and ears open and know where you're going and have a flashlight and a way out. And
that's why I packed
don't go in first.
And
that's smart.
a knife in my car. It's just
All the
like
time?
a Japanese like
Little.
I usually don't bring it in to the listings with me unless, you know, I know ahead of time
Yeah.
that there's somebody coming, but it's always there.
Smart. Yeah, I've had, I think the other biggie was like doing a final walkthrough. We're going to be south of Seattle in Puyallup, and the neighborhood itself was great. The problem was that the home was vacant, and it was a long close, and it was an opportunity because there was a sign out front.
Yeah.
And so when my client beat me to the house, and he says, the refrigerator's in the living room. And I said, excuse me, what? And as I was like everything slowed down.
Yeah.
I'm opening the key box. I go to put my key in the hole, and he was like, "Oh, I already checked. The door's open." He was so like unaware, right? Because that's our client.
Right.
Our client isn't thinking something's up, and I'm like, there are multiple signs here, guys. Something's not okay. I knew something was wrong before I got out of that, like before I even turned into the driveway, because like the look of the street told me something was wrong. I know it sounds weird, but there was just like debris. I'm like,
Yeah.
So we get in the house. Sure enough, the refrigerator is in the living room. It was in the process of being stripped by, I'm going to try to find a PC term, folks, opportunists.
Yeah.
Who were in the process of ripping the doors off so that they could get it out of the front door. There weren't, I'm not seeing people do it, okay? I'm just saying it was clearly in the stages of being like dismantled. And as we walk through the house, there's like literally like dirt footprints throughout. You could see like a dirty body had sat on like the futon. Fast food, just garbage all throughout on the floor and everything. And then we get into the kitchen, and the dishwasher is gone. The stove is gone. I'm pretty sure that microwave was gone. Well, we already know the refrigerator was in the process of being gone
so how did you guys handle this before closing?
So-
This is why you have final walkthroughs and you have agents to help you through the process.
So here's what we did. My client, his strapping, healthy young dude, touches the doorknob to the master door, and it was locked. And he just looks at me and goes like this. And if you, I know you can't see it. He just like does like a little
we're outta
swoopy.
here.
He does like we're out of here swoopy finger thing. And we are out onto the driveway. We call 911 to let them know, like, hey, that we're trying to walk through this house and it's occupied. It needs to be cleared out. So they sent a couple of goofball cops, and they like, you know, did their best. They're like, what would you really like us to do? I'm like, it'd be really great if you could like clear the house. And by then we had seen two individuals scurry out. My client went and talked to one of them, a female, but we got a physical description of the male. I was the only one to have seen him with my eyeballs. I got to catch him when I was looking back for my client around the house. I caught him through a window, and I got a great physical description of the guy. So then by then, his significant other, my female client, has shown up, and we're confident the house is cleared by that point, but the officers are like, hey, our partner down the street thinks he got somebody that fits your description. Would you mind getting in the back of our cop car, driving and going to ID him? So my client.
How exciting.
I know.
gosh.
Guys, she loved it. She loved it. She was like, let's go. We took a selfie. Like, it was a great day for her. So we go, we drive by, and they're like, is this your guy? I'm like, absolutely not. It's not the guy. And I worked in behavioral health for over a decade. I've seen some stuff. I've seen some people. I've seen the worst sides of people. And I'm like, man, that guy's already having a bad day. And then to get like pestered by the cops, no, I'm not going to just say it's that guy because he kind of looks like him. It's not the guy.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. So we head back to the property. We finish our biz. We talk to the homeowner who's selling the property, and they're like, this is exactly why, because of squatters' rights, and that's why they were selling off all their rental properties, which is why we were able to buy this house. So anyway, we come to a great agreement. Our client's well taken care of. Everybody comes out okay at the end of this, but like at the end of this conversation, we're all happy with what we're going to do, kind of. The house actually gets boarded up until closing because we don't want them to come back. And as we are leaving, I am like pulling off onto the street, and then the dude comes walking back. He literally comes back while we're still there. So I'm like, hey, police officers, remember you talked to me like, you know, an hour ago. Our dude's back. back. And so my female client follows him all the way to like a local fast food joint and just stakes him out.
She's ballsy.
She is so ballsy, you guys.
Oh.
So she stakes him out. And then the cops have me do like a drive-through ID. They're like, we don't want you to stop and look at him. We just want you to drive by while on the cell phone. And I'm on speaker at that point. They can hear me. And I'm like, yeah, that's our guy. And so we got him, which you rarely get when you have a squatter. Like,
Right.
you really catch that person. There was paraphernalia found in the house and everything. They had like your real estate agents who have all toured the property. All their cards were on the counters. Like, some of them were used to like, you know.
God.
And my card wasn't. It was like over here.
Nice,
I didn't use my card.
Yeah.
But we caught the guy, and then he's like, oh, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to lawyer up. We're like, that's fine. And then he starts asking questions, and they're like, that's all a great question for your lawyer. And then a few minutes later, the girl comes out of like another store, and he goes, oh, look, there's the girl I was with. And so then we caught the female perpetrator as well. Like, we caught both of these people.
He wasn't
Yeah.
going to go down alone, apparently.
I guess not. Like, not the best criminal ever. Anyway, the point of wrapping that up was just like, the cops really did a good job making my clients feel assured. Like, you're not in a bad area, you're not in a bad neighborhood, but you have these crimes of opportunity.
Right.
And I think that's really where this comes up, is like where we're at, because it is so green belty and forested and cloudy and dark a lot of the time, that you do have these people who are great opportunists and will seek out, whenever they can to make something happen. And so I'm glad everything turned out great on that transaction, but one thing going differently, we could have been in a completely different situation.
Well, and I could have seen the buyers being really freaked out and like imagining that this is something that they would have to deal with.
Yeah.
From, like,
Yeah, I think that would have been my
forward,
reaction.
right? Like, this was in a safe area, so
Yeah.
it sounds like best case scenario.
Oh my God, yeah.
And they still wanted to go through with it.
Yeah.
Not everybody would want to.
Yeah. You get the wrong buyer in that situation, they're going to wig out and say, like, I'm not closing on this, right? Because at the final walkthrough, like, we were down to the minute, like, when the new stove was going to be delivered, and technically at the time of walkthrough, it wasn't. So, like, when you have title looking to record and all of that, like, it was, like, down to the minute, like, are we actually closing, you guys? Just because not everything in the purchase and sale agreement was there when we
Right.
did our walkthrough. It was kind of just,
Crazy.
yeah, lots of learning came from that transaction, for
Yeah.
sure.
So some of the research we did for this episode today is all about serial killers in Seattle, just to kind of go along with some of Kat's stories that she was sharing with us, because we are the 5th most popular state for serial killers, which I didn't know.
Gosh.
I know. Doesn't that
Gosh.
feel great?
Top 5. Top
Yeah.
5. No big deal.
And like Kat said, it's because of the area. We live in a place with a lot of waterways, and we get a lot of hikers and campers and folks who are distressed. Right? Like, there's a vulnerable population here in Seattle. We have a lot of homeless, we have a lot of prostitution, we have a lot of drug use, and serial killers tend to take advantage of those sort of things. Also, I found out today that Anne Rule, who was a huge true crime author,
Yeah.
was born here in the Washington state. So
Wow.
I was talking to somebody in the office. They didn't have a TV growing up, but they read all these true crime novels. And so if you were hot on true crime back in the 70s, the best way to get your name out there would be to be around somebody who wrote about these sort of things. So Anne Rule, the weather, the location, being close to
Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
having
got
a
easiest
bordering
We have
country.
we have a bordering country, but then we're also touching. We touch what, Idaho, Oregon. Do we also touch? No, is that it on those two? But
Yeah,
it's still a
Oregon.
lot. Like, that's a lot of different gateways.
And we've got the whole like Olympic, peninsula. There's
You
just a
get
lot
out
of
there on the
places
water.
to get away. We've got
Guys,
all
the
the
Puget Sound,
waterways,
right?
San Juan's. Yeah, there's a lot
Lakes
of,
everywhere.
there's a lot of hiding places. to be
Lots of
honest.
opportunities,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Opportunity is a good word for it.
Yeah.
So the first one we're going to cover is Ted Bundy. Do you want to start us off with how he kind of got to work?
Sure. I'm going to be referring to my notes because a lot of people know a lot of things about Ted Bundy, and I don't want to get these details wrong because
Right.
he's a scary dude who did some scary things.
Well, did we all watch the Netflix episode with Zac Efron being
Oh yeah.
Ted Bundy?
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't.
What?
I know.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
haven't.
That's the thing.
But people told my husband he looks like Ted Bundy, which I would just like to go on the record and say he doesn't look like Ted Bundy, but he's just got one of those faces where he kind of looks like a bunch of different people, and he gets that sometimes. He doesn't. You don't.
I will say, in doing this episode, I was a little cautious because, like, I mentioned Dahmer, right, and how well that series was done, that it makes you kind of love him along the way. Like, oh my gosh, that poor guy, I would just like to be friends with him. And even with Zac Efron being portrayed as Bundy, like, it's a little bit tricky because they make him look so heartthrob. You know what I mean? Like, he looks so
But I mean,
desirable.
This was the thing that Ted Bundy used to his advantage, especially
Absolutely.
with the UW college students. That was the whole point, right? It's unassuming. It's not just people you assume are like that. Some unassuming folks.
Yeah.
But Ted Bundy was super, super active in the 1970s. He is one of the most notorious serial killers in history. He lured young women, often posing as like an injured man needing help. A lot of these murders were in Washington before he moved on to other states.
Yeah.
So February 1974, Bundy abducted Linda Ann Healy, 21, from the University District of Seattle. From the main campus of University of Washington. I'm sure if anybody went to UW, this is like lore over there because this is things you're warned about when you go to college.
So
Okay, what I think is crazy is Ted Bundy started in 1974, and as we go through the list, you're going to hear that he had a killing every single month until that summer, fall, when he started to up his game. And if you watch the docuseries, it will show you that he was also married. Didn't he have a kid too?
Guys, don't hate me for saying this because I happen to know this, but he conceived a child after he was incarcerated. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there so we don't go on a rabbit trail with that. Your faces say so much. I love it. I know, right? But I'm like,
Crazy.
creep. And like, you're going to, like birds of a feather, right? Like, you're going to attract a certain kind of interest with that kind of background that you're bringing to the game,
from
dude.
actions Charlie Manson. I mean, you said he killed every month, so he killed in February, started in February 1974, then March, April, May, June again, and July.
Yep. The next place he goes down to is Olympia, so that's about an hour south of Seattle, and there he was at the Evergreen State College. Again, he was looking for folks who were walking around from place to place, and he could ask for help and was very charming, and so he was more focused on young women in the collegiate area. I think that was kind of his target audience.
Yep, all of that tracks. I will say, looking at, where he started to where he went to kind of where he wrapped up, like when we're looking at one of the last big ones on this list in Lake Sammamish, when you look at the real estate in those areas, right? Like, you'd brought up U District first. I'm like, buying a house in U District today, a single family residential or a condo, like those places are holding their value. Like, these are not places that were affected adversely at all by this lore. It's just part of Seattle, Washington history. So people are aware of it, but it certainly isn't a deterrent from people buying or owning real estate in these areas. So that definitely needs to be said.
And that was about, in the last 50 years, we've seen so much development here. And I actually went through and kind of tracked how the numbers are for January of 2025 versus January of 2024. And it's wild to see how much growth there's been in all of those areas.
Okay, let's see it. Let's tell us.
Okay, so the first gal we know, because you just told us, is Linda Ann Healy, 21, U Village. So the average price point for a house in this area is $677,000, which is up 24.8% from last year. And that is both single family residence and condos combined. If you think about the amount of condos in that area, it's pretty high because you have such a
higher density of
Right, and
homes
you've
in a
got
downtown
more
area.
collegiate.
Yeah, when you look at
working in that
zoning, you have a lot more multifamily because it's collegiate, because you have sorority housing, like you have all of that stuff going on there. So when you said the number, I was like, oh, that's low for that area. But then when you incorporate condo and multifamily into that, of course, that's bringing that number down. But if you're going to look single family residential, I doubt you're going to find anything under
Anything
$1 million.
under $1 million.
You're not getting under $1 million in that area, which is crazy to say compared to some other states, right? Like where your money might go a little bit further or a little bit differently, but there's a big trade-off on what you're getting when you own real estate in this area as well. It's
Right.
going to hold its value. It's definitely going to do its job for you.
Right. In Thurston County, which is Olympia, where he abducted and killed Donna Gail Manson, a 19-year-old student at Evergreen State College. The average price point is around $615,000, and you're going to see that in both Ellensburg, Taylor Mountain, Burien area. Those are all part of King County. They aren't as nice as your district, but those areas saw 3.6% growth in last year. So even with rising interest rates, we are noticing that here in Seattle, Washington area, we have continued to see appreciation.
Yeah, and I think what we're still looking at, like if we had a map of Washington in front of us, you would see you have that like primary Puget Sound area. So half of all residents in Washington State live in 3 counties, right?
Right.
You have Snohomish, you have King, and then you have south of King County there. But you have so much of our population density living in this area right here, like mainly where this guy was doing his work.
And there's nowhere else to grow. We have gone to some of the classes where we're talking about the missing middle and how we need to kind of look at how our homes are being zoned so that there can be more density in these areas, but that hasn't come to play yet. And still about 60% of the properties in King County are zoned single family. So it's just been incredibly hard for our city to grow in a way that doesn't impact the buyer's ability to purchase.
Yeah, and the changes coming are going to take quite a long time to come to fruition and actually make meaningful.
And then
Meaningful changes.
even once we have them, we have the problem of supply, like to build. Like
Right.
it's not like, I mean, I was gonna say it's not like wood grows on trees, but it literally does. But we
trees.
But if you had a if you had a client who was looking to buy and they're like, I'm going to clear this, this wooded area I have and like sell this lumber off, like it costs more to clear that area than it does that you're going to like to actually make off of that lumber. Like this is not an easy nut to crack in terms of finding reasonable long-term solutions, but quickly. Like they're not there. We checked, but I mean, it's tough because you're going to have some demand change, like you'll have some supply change, but you won't have like the infrastructure built in already that can keep up with that. I think it's going to struggle for quite a while longer before we see something that's
And
really
supply
gonna
is
make a
only
difference.
going to grow because more people are still moving to this area, still moving to this region. We've talked about it before, how we're kind of this little quote unquote protected pocket where we don't have a ton of crazy like natural disasters as far as how the rest of the country is looking. We have a lot of big tech, so people are still coming here. The demand to move here is getting higher. The demand for housing is even higher. So even if we do catch up with the demand, I mean, it's just rising and rising and rising. We're sort of just always chasing after it.
Definitely.
Yeah. The last area that he kind of targets is around Lake Sammamish, which has seen crazy explosive development.
Yes.
The average price point for a home in Lake Sammamish is $1.45 million.
Yeah, and that's conservative.
That's average, including condos, you guys.
You have
That's
this dual
including-
market. Lake Sammamish is absolutely part of that dual market, right? When we're saying dual market, you have these east side buyers who are flush with cash and don't have to do things like make a contingent offer, and they can do things like escalate well above the asking. And then you have this completely other side of the market, which you already know about. That's who we're talking about with this middle housing piece. So Lake Sammamish is absolutely one of those dual markets, and that number 1.45 is like, that's a nice number if it was just a standalone number, like, oh, I could buy this much house in Lake Sammamish, but that's including condos, which is pulling that number down. We know that number is actually up here.
If you're looking at like a single family standalone at 1.4, like that's probably untouched since the 70s.
Yeah, it probably would need a lot of work.
work.
Yeah, you're definitely going to go in sweat equity.
You're paying for the area.
And that
Zip
area
code, yep.
grew by 5.3% over the last year, which was already inflated significantly.
And same thing, that area can't grow this way anymore. You're like, people are either gonna have to grow this way, which people have too much money to need that there. They'll go somewhere else.
Right.
They'll just go somewhere else will be how they do that. So, yeah.
Okay, should we talk about the other infamous killer?
Yes. So this might sound familiar because we talked about trails and parks in our last couple episodes. The Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway. He was active in the 1980s through 2001.
Crazy long time.
Yeah.
Crazy long time. I don't know why it always pops into my head every time I'm running errands in that area.
Yeah.
Like I said, I
might
might
get
get
murdered.
area.
I
And
might get
there's
murdered.
the Green
Yeah.
River.
Well, you know, it's all in a day's work.
It's hard not to think about it. So he's an American serial killer. He killed. He was convicted of 48 murders, though I think if you read down lower, he confessed to one more. So he was convicted
49.
of 49 murders.
I think what I read though that the average number is like over 80 is what they anticipate.
Yeah,
I think
that's all he was
both of
convicted
these guys
for.
had really large
Yeah.
counts. Both of these guys took a long time to catch. I mean, and I think Gary was actually cooperative. They actually took Bundy out to Gary's scenes.
Oh.
If you didn't know that, they actually brought Ted Bundy out to consult on dump sites to see if they could
Crazy.
find more bodies because
Wow.
we had so many missing people during that time frame.
Holy smokes. Well, he had a totally different ball game. So
Absolutely.
he tried to focus more on individuals that were distressed. So prostitutes, drug
Yep.
addicts, those who were
Yeah, very different demographic
Easy.
than he was focusing on.
exactly
Absolutely.
easy to target, easy to find, hide. People wouldn't miss them. And he would dump their bodies into the Green River.
Which is how he got his serial killer nickname, the
Yeah.
Green River Killer.
Yep.
Which is a beautiful part of town.
Yeah,
up
I've
there in
absolutely-
Black Diamond.
I've absolutely shown houses in that area.
Yeah.
It is a great area. There's usually at least like a little bit of trepidation. Like, are we sure we want to look here? I'm like, it's worth looking at. Like,
The serial killer name has nothing to do with the area. It's just unfortunate that is where all of his victims were found.
Yeah, I will say that if you go back to our country's history, probably not just us guys, it's going to be a part of human history. Wherever you have large masses of people gathering, working in trades work, you're also going to have sex workers follow that. It's the same for any place that's developing. Like one of the first trades you're going to see there are bars and sex workers are going to be like kind of how towns get built on as far as
Everybody has needs.
It's why people settle. That's why people settle in places because there are services and goods that you want.
you
And
can.
in those times and in these times.
So I know I didn't make a great selling point for that area, but I'm saying obviously there was a lot to offer in that area industry-wise. If you had a large gathering, if you had a pool that large to pick from of workers in that area, it's
Right.
obviously an area where there's going to be great infrastructure and commerce built into it. So
It's just wild that I actually met one of the officers who worked on his case, and he was a member of the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce and talked about like this long route that they took to try and find him and how many years and years it took of evidence to finally convict him. And it's wild to me that happened during our lifetime.
I
right?
know.
yeah.
Yeah. I was born in 88, so this was like my whole childhood here.
Your whole childhood, there was somebody out there strangling, killing.
Did you grow up in the area?
I did.
Okay.
I grew up in Bellevue.
All right.
And now,
so you're like
now I
down
live
the
down
street.
south, so I'm closer to Kent. But
Got it.
so the Green River is not far from me.
No, it's right there in your backyard, kind of.
Yeah.
But I did do some research on the Black Diamond area. We are seeing a ton of new development out there, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Lots of
Oh,
new
yes.
construction. The average price point is $794, which I think is low if you're looking at new
The
construction.
new construction
Yeah,
is like
right.
Sure.
mid to
Yeah,
high.
I had clients who were looking to buy out that way. It was tough because there wasn't a great resale market. Like you just don't have people turning over properties as quickly out there. They were going to have to wait for something that was going to be a new construction build if they were going to get their hands on anything. So
So Black Diamond is like kind of located in the blue area, near Blue Origin, which is a space company headed up by Bezos, right? And a lot of the folks who want to live in Renton, who can't afford that area, are getting kind of pushed into this Black Diamond, a little further east, but it's
like a suburb kind of.
Yeah, it still has some of the elements of Renton and development and whatnot, but I think that we will continue to see that area grow expansively. When I looked at the permits that were being pulled for 2025 in new builds, most of them are down in Renton and North Bend area. So that's where we're going to see the most new development happening over the last year, or the next year, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You made it. You made it. You got through it.
I love the most that we have somehow worked in two of the most infamous serial killers into Seattle real estate. But I mean, it's part of our history here.
It is.
It's good to know, you guys.
Yeah, it's good to know.
And if we're being honest, it's not an expansive list, not by a long shot. But we weren't trying to do that, right? This is real estate agents talking about lore in the area and what you need to know, not the other way around. Like, we're not claiming to be a true crime podcast, but there's a ton of goodies out there that will absolutely tell you more about Seattle's worst of the worst. Like, but I actually think, despite our dark past, like, our resale market for real estate here is like thriving, like strong.
Now you know, we all know the history, so we'll be able to tell you exactly where you should
all
go,
the things,
because we've done our research.
Yes, ma'am.
Just like any great agent would. So if you're interested in learning more about what we do, please hit us up with an email or phone call, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.